Oliver from Rugby League, in my opinion, here, and welcome to our 2021 NRL preliminary final preview. I am joined, as I have been for the past couple of weeks, by the Wrightman. How are you today, Righty?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure having you on to give your knowledge, breaking down the games, which we will be doing once again this evening. I just want to ask your thoughts on something quickly. I think it's a smart play by the NRL, moving the preliminary final between the Melbourne Storm and Penrith Panthers to 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon to not clash with that AFL Grand Final. Obviously, a lot of Melbourne Storm supporters also are AFL fans and would want to be watching both games. So do you see that as a positive move as well?
Yeah, it's an excellent move by the NRL. And with Melbourne's situation with COVID, you've got a captive audience, you could say. So majority of people, the sports fanatics, which a lot of Melburnians are, they'll be watching both. If you've got the opportunity to watch two Melbourne teams or three Melbourne teams are playing the two in the AFL Grand Final and the Storm, you'll take that. But if you've got to choose one or the other, the league faithful would choose the Storm. The neutral people some would choose AFL, some wouldn't, and the AFL people would definitely be watching the GF. But the others would be. But now you don't have to force anybody to choose. You're looking after your faithful, and you've got to think too. I just saw the Storm to their members, because of what's happened in the last couple of seasons, they get free membership next year.
Yeah, right.
So a free year of membership, which I think is a fantastic initiative by the club, by Frank Panisi and the marketing people there. I just think that this is smart by the broadcasters. And we need to do that. You've got to be working in together. You don't want to put yourself in hot competition against each other if you don't have to, because it's just both going to lose out in some way. And in this situation, the NRL would have lost out more than the AFL.
Oh, 100%. And I have seen a few people online sort of complaining that we shouldn't have to move the time slot of our games just due to the NRL. Well, at the end of the day, again, a lot of people got to realise the NRL is a business. They want to do the best business they can, get the best viewership, and it would not be a very good choice playing the game during the AFL Grand Final. If the roles were reversed.
Exactly right. And you've heard arguments, some people complaining that it should have been top 6 instead of top 8.
Yeah,
can you imagine the last month?
Yeah.
If it's top 6, or worse, top 5. I would have to go top 6.
Yep.
But, the last month, it's all fait accompli, as they say. It would have been, there would have been so many games that were just, or what do they call, dead rubbers. And if you want people to be tuning in and staying interested in these games, you've got to be giving the opportunity to fight for something. Look at the Titans, your team.
Yeah.
They scrape in with a couple of results. They put in a good performance, a real good performance against the Warriors, and then were unlucky not to beat the Roosters. You wouldn't have that with the top 6. They have to get viewership. They want people to be invested in the season for as long as possible. The NBA, about 50% of the teams make the playoffs because that's the standard thing that they do in their competition. And the NFL, they have with their wildcard playoffs and that.
Yeah.
It works well with them because they have 32 teams. But I couldn't see 16 comp, potentially 17 in the next few years. Having a top 6, I just don't see it. I think top 8, it gives everyone a fighting chance and it makes a lot more games interesting. And you're not getting to a situation where a coach is just going to blood some young guys in a last round or something because just to give them some experience. Those situations won't happen if you plan for something.
I suppose as well, if you have a top 6, for the NRL to still be able to bring in that revenue that they would otherwise be getting from a top 8, they would then have to complicate the top 6 structure so that they're still getting the same games as they would in a top 8, which would then probably make that top 6 comical, convoluted, hard to understand. But yeah, as we said, your point's absolutely correct. It's keeping more fans invested for longer. But again, it is also the NRL's a business. 8 teams in the finals, more money comes in for more finals games, more TV revenue. It's a no-brainer in that sense. I get the argument that it's a higher standard of finals, but again, it's also a shorter finals. Whether it's an 8-team finals or a 6-team or 5-team final setup, you're still probably going to get to the same. Well, you are going to get to the same point anyway, where we are now, where the 4 best teams, no matter whether they finished first, second, third, fourth, sixth, right down to 8th, they're going to be there and they're going to make it through. And an example, last year, South Sydney finished 6th. They made the prelim. Canberra finished 5th. They still made the prelim as well. So even those lower teams are still a chance making it through. And we all know the story of the Parramatters of 09. You've got the Cowboys of 17, and also you've got teams like the Bulldogs 2014, who I believe finished 7th that year as well. So it's a nice story when that happens every few years. But anyway, Righty, are you ready to get into the previews for this weekend?
Can't wait. This is one of the most exciting weeks of the season. You've got grand final, Origin. You've got this because there's 4 sets of fans hinging on these results to see if they're how invested they're going to be on Sunday week.
Well, hopefully you're very invested for your sake on Sunday week as your Manly Warringah Seagulls take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs in the first of the 2 preliminary finals on Friday night. The Rabbitohs going into this one favourites, I believe, which I thought would be a bit closer. This one's a bit hard for me to toss up. But first, Righty, how do both teams go about winning this game? And then give us your prediction as to who you think will win.
With the Rabbitohs, they're going to try and replicate how the Storm defended Tom Trbojevic, giving him the ball in positions he doesn't want to get them, a lot of kick pressure, kick chase, cut down his time, his space. The thing when by dominating the middle and not getting there and not getting clean balls or quick play the balls and so forth. Cody Walker, he always plays that floating role, so he pops up on both sides of the field. They'll be trying to target the Manly's right side, so their left side defence will be targeting Manly's right. They'll be testing it. Young Morgan Harper, he struggled in that first round of the finals against Justin Olam, who is close to the best centre in the comp. Melbourne were on a roll. Manly didn't complete, and that was a target they had. So they'll be trying with that side that I'm talking about. That's their side with Jaden Sewer and Campbell Graham, and also who's the winger on that side is Jackson Pollard at the moment. But there is speculation about Mansour. Josh Mansour may be right to go. So there could be a hard decision there for Coach Bennett. It'll be interesting. So they'll be trying to get at that side to test the boys out. The thing too is their middle dominance was how they beat Penrith. They got on top in the middle. The bench gave them great impact. Tom Burgess was outstanding coming off the bench for him, so he took it up another level. They'll be trying to generate those quick play the balls, get Cook to jump out, start asking some questions. Young Taffy he'll be floating around in a bit of like probably less touches than most fullbacks would have in those ball playing inside the good balls, inside the 20. He won't be touching it as much as say Turbo will, but he'll be doing it. They have a different role where they'll get to Walker out. Reynolds' kicking game is imperative. So they'll want to, as I said, they'll want to be trying to kick Turbo in the corners and bring it out like that. I wouldn't be surprised. They'll probably try and they'll be throwing some bombs up to the wingers a lot, just trying to get you to be bringing it off your try line and trying to build pressure at defence. So that's, from Manly's side of view, their set starts have to be exceptional. Their outside backs have to really get on that roll. But more imperative, they've got to get on top in the middle. You've either got to get on top or you've got to nullify the opposition's match it with the opposition pack. So that'll put your playmakers in a position to win the game for you. Manly's point of view, they've got to get to their spots, areas, and by spots I mean those areas that they've work to in their patterns and get Turbo the ball at the right times. You can't just be giving him the ball, telling him to take, he likes to take runs like front rowers. That's to generate the quick play the ball. You'll often see him take the second last run in the set. That's to get a quick play the ball for Daly Cherry Evans to get a better kick. Things like that. They have to chip away. Souths are a big pack, so they have to test them out laterally. They've got a good bench with Burgess, Jacob Host, and Jairo coming off the bench. So Manly's bench have to match that. I assume Sean Kepi will start because that was a masterstroke by Coach Hasler last week. Kepi brought a lot of aggression. He's quick play the ball. He's a West Sydney boy like you. I think he went to Westfield.
Okay.
Played for Para in the 2017?
Against Manly?
Yeah.
That Holden Cup
Kepi was
final.
starting front rower. Ray Stone was the lock. They had a coached by Luke Burt.
They were winning that game, weren't they, too?
Yeah, they
I remember.
were red hot favourites.
Yeah.
And who was it? Cade Cuss put Keith Titmarsh, God rest his soul, over next to the post. And Vita Funa kicked the goal. So Kepi, I'm assuming he'll start. Marty Tapau comes on after about 20 and he plays a big stint. Tapau, outstanding in that first rotation front rower. What Manly need to do by nullifying South in the middle, that takes Damien Cook out of the game. He's not going to be as effective. As good a football player as Cook is, if you're winning the middle, it makes life a lot harder. One thing, too, that worked well with Manly coming back with Kepi starting, Jared Croker came back as dummy half. Croker, his service from dummy half is generally very good, and his defence. He's really developed into a dummy half the last 2 seasons. He's played 40-plus games the last 2 years. He'd be close to 50 games over the last 2 years. So that's quite a lot. That's quite a lot for a bloke who had a lot of injuries. Croker was a junior Kangaroos 5'8" when he was at the Raiders before he found his way to Melbourne and a bit to Manly, I should say, and he'd had a few serious injuries like ACLs, etc., that kept derailing him. But the last 2 years, he's found his mojo at dummy half. And you've got Kane Lawton will come off the bench. He'll give a bit more pace. He'll probably play a 20, 25-minute role while Croker catches his breath. For Manly to win this, you've got your obviously big guns, your 6, your 7 in Daly, Harry Evans, Foran. You need Turbo touching the ball a lot. Against the Roosters, even though they were depleted, it was a tough situation for Manly because if you rattled up a score, everyone's saying, yeah, but you only beat the depleted Roosters. But if you only went out there and won by 8 points, that's how you struggled to beat the depleted Roosters. So people are going to find fault at whatever you do. It's where I see them, they'll be looking to get Hamole Olakluoto one-on-one at Cody Walker. So they want him generating quick play the balls and punching his nose through. He was very dangerous last week. And on the other side with Reynolds, you'll have Josh Schuster trying to get one-on-one with Reynolds and using his footwork to try and beat Jaden Sewer. Sewer's going to look to sting you. So Manly are going to use a lot of their shape plays. They have a lot of crossover plays where they'll drop someone off and he'll pick a runner up on the inside, change of angles, especially with Turbo, because Turbo's dangerous in a lot of situations. But one is, if the defence is getting tired and he starts drifting across field, he's a big body. He's going to be hard to handle. If he's breaking tackles and he's so big and strong, even if they legs tackle him, he's playing it fast. Yeah. And they get off the back of that well. Expect Daly Cherry Evans to run the ball a lot. He's at his best when he's running the ball early. Kick chase. Same thing like a lot of fullbacks. They've got to give Blake Tafe, because he's played less than 10 first-grade games, and he's a super talent. They've got to be putting pressure on the kid. I didn't think Penrith did that so well, and the pressure they did put on him, the kid handled it well. Yeah. So you've got to give him the ball in situations you don't want him to get it in. Kicking into these corners, you can manhandle him in defence, as similar to what Melbourne did with Turbo and what South will try and do. They'll try and be kicking you in a corner because then you have to have one. The first play, you've got to get you back to the middle. So you've already burnt up one play. So defensive lines will give away 6 to go because you could only end up having to tackle for 2 more tackles, maybe turn the ball over.
Yeah.
A little way that coaches get around the 6 to go call. I see if Mansour's there or Paulo, they'll get targeted a bit. Mansour, his last game was that game against Penrith, and he really struggled under Cleary's those floated bombs he throws up, those dead bombs and drop, and just that. So they'll be testing. Mansour won't have played since that night. So if he does play, they'll test him out. If not, I don't think they're going to kick to Alex Johnson too much just because he's experienced campaigner. And he's going to catch a lot more bombs than he ever could. He dropped one 2 weeks ago, but that was pretty rare for him. So expect Paulo, Tofi to get targeted a bit. They've also got a big matchup over there on that edge with Harper and Dane Gagai. Gagai's carries are sensational. Like whether he's starting a set or he's in space, Gagai has that ability to hit, spin, and break tackles. He's a tackle breaker, Gagai. His passing's all right, but he's a runner. So with Gagai, they've got to defend that well because they will be trying to get him isolated with Harper, trying to test Harper out. Harper was good last week against the Roosters. That could be the confidence booster he needed. This is a tussle. So you've got to, as I said, you've got to either get on top of the forwards or you've got to nullify the pack. That will put you in a position to let your playmakers create. The 2 back rowers are going to have to. I'm expecting them to have big games. Schuster's footwork and that fend, he's hard to handle, and he's really developing his game too. Like the guy like Schuster with his talent is his first full year in the NRL, and it's his first full year playing on as a back rower. So because he's got such phenomenal skills, Josh Schuster, he does get carried away a little bit. I've noticed he's toned that down a bit lately. One underestimated aspect of his game is he can hit. He's a good defender. Olis Woto, too, he's a beast. Like, if they're getting him clean ball and he's getting that fend going, he'll be punching his nose through that one regularly or either making breaks. So he'll be getting them. They've got to play fast on this big pack. Like, you've got to be testing out Burgess, Mark Nickel, and the other front rowers. When they come on, you've got to test their agility out with these drop-off plays. I'm expecting Cherry Evans always likes to run from dummy half at points because he's smart and he's an awkward bloke to tackle. One thing with Daly Cherry Evans, people talk about his ball playing, but his support play is sensational too. Manly need to start fast. They did that the other night. They've got to be in the grind early. They look like they'll be in a lot better mental state than at the start of that Storm game. So, errors are imperative in this. You've got to be disciplined with and without the ball. This is finals football. So your forwards have to really take the lump, and they have to things like line speed and defence, not throwing shit offloads coming out. Things like that can really turn a game. You've got to keep turning up, and you've got to hold your nerve. People will doubt you, but you're one game off a grand final. What has happened before means absolutely nothing. You can have a week off. Plenty of sides have got week off, have not made grand finals. You've got to go in the fight with Cherry and K-Foz. They have to be smart. Foran played really well last week. They were both subpar to what they can bring after that first week. If they complete better, Hasler's going to be smart about this. He's been in plenty of prelims, so they'll be up for the battle on this. I'm expecting them to be ready to go Friday night, so it should be impressive. It's going to be a great, great tussle. Whatever forward pack, if one forward pack dominates the other, it's going to be hard to handle. And when your forward's getting on a roll, that means Turbo or Taffy and that they push around the middle. Turbo being a big body, if you're getting 6 again and he's jumping out of dummy half or getting it 1-1, he almost pushes blokes out of the way to get the football at times, and he's ball playing. No, Garrett didn't score a try last week. He hadn't scored in the first 2 semis. I expect Garrett to cross the 1-2. He was good though last week, Garrett. He's set start. He's playing confident footy. Those back three have to be Saab's pace. They'll be looking to test out South with Saab's pace, maybe early kick or hang one up for him to give him a target to jump. Maybe him and Johnson, the two speedsters marking each other. Thing two, if you get in that role and one of those halves puts one of these kicks on a dime, it's going to be hard to defend. So you have to stay. You've got to stay in the grind and you've got to stay in the fight. Expect Daly Cherry Evans. He's played at Suncorp quite heaps for Manly and Queensland. He'll have a 40-20 shot at some stage. Same with Reynolds. If they're getting on a roll, if they sense the wingers are edging their bets with not dropping back far enough to stay in the line to try and defend in case they run the ball, he'll be trying to test them out. Kick pressure is another thing. You've got to make it uncomfortable for these kickers. You've got to get out. Your markers have to get out, and they've got to be taking a couple of steps off. If you're letting these blokes take 3-4 steps before they kick it, they can put the ball anywhere they want. These are some of the best halves in the comp. Daly's the Queensland captain. He's played for Australia. Reynolds has played Origin. Both halves have won premiership, so they've played in big games. And you've got Benji coming off the bench. It's always a mystery of how long you'll play on the bench in the role Benji does. When Marshall's out there, he's got to be a target, though. Same as Sam Walker when he came on last week. You've got to find him because Marshall's still got plenty of creative skills. He could go another season if he wanted to, but he's a spot in defence. So when they bring him on, they've got to get at him and generate some quick play the balls. Well, he played 20 minutes that last game, which is probably on par. He just does what's needed. Like if he's got to play 60, he plays 60. If he's got to play 10, he plays 10. He'll come on in a role. Coach Bennett will have a role for him. Normally, I wouldn't think he'd have him in the middle in a game like this unless it was because he'll just get spotted up. Cam Murray's another key player for the Rabbitohs. He generates those quick play the ball. So they've got to try and counteract this as much as possible. It's going to be a cracker. Two old rivals. Let's hope it's 2013 prelim revisited. These blokes, the fans dislike each other. There's plenty of history there. This is right, and they're playing at 10 minutes from where I live. So
you'll be there.
Yeah, I'm there. The NRL just gave us free tickets, so I've got about 8 tickets. So I'll be giving some away to someone. I'm taking the family, but I'll be giving some to my mates too. I just got 4 for free, so that's fantastic. This is going to be a cracker. I won't give you a tip because you know which way I'm leaning, but this could be an outstanding game. I cannot wait for it. I'll be very excited by then. I've been trying not to think about it, but they just roll on. Last week, you saw before the game when you watched the Fox, for those that watched it on Fox and KO, Hasluk tuned in. He will, and I'm not saying Coach Bennett won't, but Hazel will be, he would have watched them for months, trying to work out an area he feels he can target. It's going to come down to forward dominance, the kicking game of the halves, and both fullbacks will play a big role in this. Turbo's going to touch the ball a lot, and they're going to try and keep him out of the game, but he'll have an impact in this game. Everyone wants to think they can contain him like Melbourne does. Yeah. You might be able to do that for periods of game, but it's hard to do it for 80 minutes like Melbourne did. Melbourne are the only team I've seen keep him out of a game for 80 minutes. You might limit him, as all great players, as Manly manager limit Tedesco last week. Not saying he played bad. He still did some outstanding things. He just wasn't as dominant as he was in previous times because they weren't getting that forward role. And this is where it is. Coach Bennett once said, I watched him in an interview once. He said the same thing that won games when he was coaching in the 70s in Brisbane, win games for you now. Ball security, belief in the team, and defence. These are things and both teams are going to have this in spades come Friday night. They're going to be ready to rip in. So I personally can't wait.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. After watching them get tailed up by Penrith when I was meant to go to Sydney, and they played the Thursday night, and I was glad I didn't end up going then.
Yeah.
If you had told me that we could make top 8, I would have been pretty happy. But to tell me that we'd be here, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one as well. And I think the emphasis that you've put on defence and the forward packs meeting in the middle is crucial to this one as well. I think even more so personally for South Sydney, if they can sort of have a similar first 20 to what they had against Penrith, then I think they might be all right and be able to go on with this one. Obviously, they gave Penrith a bit of a shock in that one because Penrith wasn't expecting it. I feel like Manly will be expecting it a bit more. But if South Sydney can be winning the middle after the first 20 minutes, I feel like it'll take the pressure off the backs and then they'll be able to start swinging it out. I feel like Manly, due to that man, Tom Trbojevic, don't necessarily the forwards are going to be there anyway and the forwards are going to do their job. But with that addition of Tom Trbojevic, Manly will be able to sort of spread it out a lot earlier, be able to have that X factor earlier as well.
Similar to how they played Melbourne when they played them with Suncorp, trying to get them to edges to that rushing, to get out of that Russian defence or win in the middle, try and move around a bit, because you're right, they did take Penrith by surprise and it took a while for Penrith to get back into their groove. And it's important, as I said, I keep saying, you got to stay in the fight. It's an old cliche in all rugby league level, but you got to stay in the fight. And opportunities can swing, especially with the way the game is now. You got to be able to take your chances when they come. It doesn't matter if you're down 10-0 or up 10-0. You know, the pendulum will swing your way at one stage. You just got to be composed enough. You've got to build pressure with and without the ball. And if you're not completing your sets, or you're throwing bad offloads, risky passes, and that undoes pressure and it puts pressure on your defence. So when you get the ball, do you have enough gas in the tank to be able to challenge the opposition through the middle and on the edges? And if you're containing them in the middle, if you're either winning the middle or matching them, your edge defence will be fine. But if you're getting bent back and you continually, and they're playing fast at you all the time, your edge gets put under a lot of pressure, and that's where these playmakers they've got will take on both sides will take advantage of that. So yeah, that should be a cracker.
Yeah.
Some of the matchups like Harper and Gagai, Parker and Campbell Graham, of course Turbo and Taff, things like that, like the starting fronties, like Oloa, and I assume it's going to be Kepi up against the South boys. These are all crucial things. And the bench is going to have to both benches have to bring impact for you. Should be an outstanding game of footy, I hope.
Yeah, well, you're leaning towards Manly. We know who you're leaning towards and tipping. And to be honest, this one's basically 50-50 for me. I've been going back and forth. So I guess for the sake of this prediction right here, I'll go the opposite to you to see who's right. I explained how I think South Sydney can win it. I think we both agree on that front, keeping it in the middle. So I will tip South Sydney just for that. But I wouldn't be surprised if my mind flips and switches and changes 100 times before this game on Friday night. Now, before we move on to the second preliminary final, I wanted to bring up something, Righty, because you brought it up to me a couple of weeks back and I keep forgetting, but I've noticed with your jersey there, I need to bring it up now. You are the head coach of Uruguay Rugby League. I believe you guys actually have a game planned against Japan a bit later on this year, COVID permitting. Tell us a little bit about that before we move on to the Storm and Panthers.
Well, the last Saturday of November, if the football gods and the COVID situation permits, we'll be looking to play a game against our Japan resident side in Sydney. We've been incommunicado for months, but with COVID getting worse, hopefully it's starting to ease off now, and the vaccine rates are a lot higher. So hopefully that's playing a role. This should be good. So they're all going to be heritage players. All my Uruguay boys are all heritage players. It's just going to be an international. Can't call it a friendly because we're playing rugby league. So it's contact sport. So it'll just be an international. Hopefully this can be in the next month or so. We'll have a clearer picture. But everyone, stay tuned. If you want to get on, follow us. Uruguay Rugby League. Have our Instagram page and a Facebook page. If you want to get on, follow us. You can get on and follow the Japanese boys too. They have the same on social media. They're actually looking for a sponsor. Andrew Peace Wines is a great sponsor of ours. They're looking to sponsor a shield, so the game could be the Andrew Peace Wine Shield. That's what we're looking to name it. They'll be giving a man a match. So they're a great company. Online wines. For any of your online wine needs, get onto their website www.andrewpeacewines.com, and they'll look after you. We're just itching for a game. And next game, we're looking to compete. Hopefully, if we don't play then, touch wood we do, we'll be looking to play in January. We're also looking to compete at the Cabramatta Nines in February at Cabramatta Leagues Club in Sydney. So I'll be flooding social media with that. We'll get mentioned about that. But that's a great tournament out. It's been going for quite a long time. A lot of international sides, a lot of local New South Wales sides. It would be the Uruguayan Gauchos debut in that. So that's what we're hoping. So hopefully we get a game against the Japan boys beforehand. So we just got to hope that everything falls into place. But stay tuned. I'll keep plugging us on here.
Yeah.
Go on to social medias on Insta. Go on Facebook. We'll be posting some videos. Our captain, Johnny Mazzio, he's going to be putting up some videos soon. So we're encouraging the boys to start doing some of their own training now, just to maintain the rage as much as you can do within the restrictions. And then we'll start putting some try and get a month block of training and sort of thing. You know what I mean? So, well, stay tuned. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it is.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed that you guys will be able to play in late November. But if not, in January. Anyway, I'm sure it'll be, it's a friendly international game. However, there are actually stakes because in the position that both you and Japan are in, a win could mean a nice little boost in the International Rugby League rankings as well, which would be huge. Yeah,
and you want to be playing footy. We're hoping to make this an annual event for these boys because everyone all the communication I've had with them, they've been fantastic. Both sides have been pretty flexible. So I hope we get this underway and make tradition. I feel it'll be good for Uruguay Rugby League to start expanding our brand and not just playing against the Latino sides, which is great for all the traditional rivals and all the countries like Brazil and that, where all these neighbouring countries in South America are very close and are also very close to each other, of course. So there's always that instant rivalry. We want to start expanding that, playing against some other sides, and Japan would be fantastic. And that's what I'm hoping. We've got merchandise for sale. If you want to buy a Uruguay Rugby League hat, jump on the Chasing Kangaroos website. They're stocking our merch at the moment. I'm also getting some hats made up for the Cabramatta Nines next year. Probably have an Andrew Peace Wine sponsors on the side of the hat, just to start getting us out there. We'll be selling them at both games we play. We'll be trying to sell some merch. So we've got a few old jerseys, we've got a few training shirts still, got some stuff. So you'll be able to purchase some merch from us either at this game in possibly November or January, and either that or at the Cabramatta Nines.
Yeah, righty. Well, thanks for telling us a bit about what's going on in Uruguay Rugby League at the moment. The upcoming game, again, fingers crossed, it goes ahead as planned. And in the off season, we're thinking about doing more content, getting stuff out on the YouTube and the podcast feed. So we'll definitely have to keep up to date with the goings on of Uruguay Rugby League there. But for now, we move on to
Much appreciate your support, my friend.
Yeah, it's all good. It's an absolute pleasure. We move on now to the Melbourne Storm versus the Melbourne Panthers, the Penrith Panthers, in the second preliminary final at 4 p.m., I believe, on Saturday. Of course, we spoke about how that game has been moved. Of course, the replay of last year's grand final, or I should say the rematch. Not a lot of people giving Penrith much hope. I have maintained all year, however, at least personally, that if any team can beat Melbourne in a big game like this and eliminate them from the competition, it is a just about full strength Penrith Panthers side. Of course, Brian Toto ruled out again once again for this game, so it's going to be a hard task.
Took out carrying injury too. He was really, he didn't have a lot of impact last week through probably for that same injury. It's going to be hard to get Melbourne in this situation with them rested, but they have been beaten before in these situations. 2011.
That's right, the Warriors
ambushed them in Melbourne.
Yeah.
A rookie half named Sean Johnson put on a masterclass. This is interesting. There's some having cheese available, having the Fox. This is going to be their big ends. There's a lot of for Penrith to win this. It's the same thing. You've got to stay in the grind with Melbourne because Melbourne won't go away. I heard Matthew Johns talking yesterday on SEN saying that he feels that to beat Melbourne, you need to score in the high 20s. Penrith's goal line defence is fantastic still. But the thing Melbourne bring that Parramatta didn't, Para had their chances, but they don't really have their style of attack. Dylan Brown's a runner. As Clint Gutherson had a great game. But he's not a primary ball-playing fullback. He's more, as I've mentioned before, he's like the Energizer Bunny, pops up everywhere. Kick chase, contesting balls, pushing up in the middle. He'll pop up and shuffle the ball on, but not so. He does have ball-playing ability, but he doesn't come out the back on the sweep plays and throw a triple cutout sort of thing. He's not the same sort of ball player as a Turbo or a Pappenhausen style fullback. So their main threat last week as a ball player was either Paulo ball playing in the forwards or and Moses. So they weren't overly tested when they got into good ball zones. The Storm will bring a lot more, and their kicking game. They're a double-edged sword with the kicking game. You've got Hughes, you've got Munster. Munster's running game is sensational. His tackle breaks are phenomenal. He's ridiculously strong with that fend he pulls out. He's your X factor. See, with Melbourne, everyone talks about, the Storm, they play structured, they play to these block shapes, blah, blah, blah. They do, but they have X factor. Pappenhausen, X factor, and he's finding his mojo. So he's another weapon. And Munster, they will play off-the-cuff footy. Where Jerome Hughes, for mine, the four best halfbacks in the comp are in some order: Cleary, Hughes, DCE, and the fourth one's up in the air because there's a lot of good up. Maybe Mitchell Moses. Like, it depends what Mitchell Moses you find. The Mitchell Moses, when they're on a roll, definitely.
Yeah. Mitchell
Moses, when they were struggling, definitely was not. Those type of situations. So, Hughes a dangerous runner as well. So, coming from his fullback and coming through the grades as a fullback. So, that's his forte. A man to the Panthers who needs to be strong is Momorowski. Momorowski's got the job of stopping the PNG freight train Olam. Momorowski being an ex-Storm player, he'll have an idea of the shapes they'll play. They won't have varied them up much, and they would have done a lot of video on them, as every side does. When they get to those edges when they've got Kenny Bromwich, so when Munster either hits Kenny Bromwich or Olam, you've got two bodies that can generate quick play the balls there. So whoever he hits, he plays it fast. They go off the back of things and they reassess what they've done in attack. And that's how Penrith used to play. Penrith used to play they're playing a lot more basic block shapes now, and it's not working for them.
No.
They look a bit, their confidence looks up in the air. Like Luai isn't damaging as much as he was earlier on. One thing too, they've got copious amounts of danger man. I think a bloke who doesn't get a lot of raps, but is a very good player, is Capewell. Capewell on that right edge, his footwork and that, and he can play with that ex-Ipswich jet style. He can skip across field using his footwork and that, and come up with an offload, things like that can break a defence up. Melbourne, one thing, will dominate the ground. It's how they work. It's what they'll do. They'll bring this energy. So they're going to be targeting. They're going to target Dylan Brown, Dylan Edwards. I should say. Dylan Edwards had an off night the other night with those bombs. So they'll be throwing a few up to him. He's going to get a workout with this. If To'o's not playing, that takes, unless something happens in the next few days. I saw his jersey 21. He's their set starter, as everyone knows. If he plays, they won't kick to him that much unless they've got a fantastic chase on him. Or if they do, they're going to be hanging it high.
Yeah.
And try and have a reception committee for him as soon as he catches it. If you're kicking a To'o and you're not up for a kick chase, he's going to run for 200 to 300 metres a game. With Melbourne, they don't have any visible weaknesses that you could point out. But how Para had success against them, you've got to stay in the fight with them and frustrate him out of the game. One thing with Munster, you can frustrate him. So if you're making him play effort upon effort, you've got to tire him out, and you've got to rattle him. So you've got to, your back rower, when Munster gets the ball, he has to push from the inside to help out the half who's defending him. So he's got to whack. So he's got to come out and do all this all legally. So you've got to put pressure on Munster to frustrate him. When they're playing a quick play the balls, he skips those overs lines where he gets outside blokes, and he's got that fend. He creates things. He'll kick early on hackles. He can break the line. He sets tries up. He's always dangerous, especially near the try line. So what they have to do is turn up the heat on them and get in the grind with them and try and do what Para did about a month or 5 weeks ago and just frustrate them. And they were missing blokes that night. Their pack with Bromwich, Finucane, Cheese starting. Cheese is the best dummy half in the comp on form. If he doesn't win this at the Daily M, it's a farce. I do not know how they could overlook him. Then you've got Harry Green, who's got more subtle ball play around the ruck, out of dummy half. He ball plays a bit more. He's still very dangerous, but he's a different sort of than a power running Smith. Doesn't hit as hard as Smith. He brings a few more subtleties and nuances around the ruck. He also has a better kicking game than Smith. So there's a double-pronged attack there. So they never let up. And you're bringing off Kamakamika, you're bringing them on, Asafa Solomona. You've also got Nico Hines, who can come on, and he's not just replacing someone who's injured. He'll come on as a middle forward and be another link man at times. They'll mix that up where they bring him on. And if he comes on late in the game and he's a fresh set of legs, there's a danger there.
Yeah.
So where they'll want to meet the aggression of this Penrith pack, because Penrith looking a bit flat. So they're going to try and ramp that up this week. what they need Jerome Luai getting back into getting his mojo and starting to challenge the line more because it just hasn't been happening. I see Melbourne creating some problems. Remus Smith's another unsung hero. So you've got these centres on the air creating opportunities. You've got a couple of pretty handy finishes there, and like Fox and Jennings and Remus Smith on the right side formed a great combination. Started off a bit rough early on. Remus Smith, he was a good player at the Dogs, but man, he's outstanding. If they were picking a Kiwi Test team, they'd be taking Remus Smith. I'll tell you that. How I see it, where last week there was only a couple of tries scored by kicks, where they'll get them, Melbourne will look to attack between the 40 and the 40. So they'll want to, their attack, they'll be putting on a couple of their trick shots around the middle of the field. That way, that's where I think you get Penrith. Penrith very good defend. Goal line defence is very good. And Parra weren't throwing much at them. The Storm will build a lot of pressure. For the Panthers to win this, Cleary has to kick them into good field position. And that comes from Fisher Harris and the likes up in the tempo in the middle. And they've got to generate the quick play the balls to unleash Api Coruscant's running game. Because Coruscant was in the Origin side of the year. He's a dangerous beast, Api, when he jumped out. Another thing that I noticed too, he's gone away from his ball playing a bit. They need to go back to what was working for him. And you don't have to be a scientist to work that out. But Melbourne have to pressure them into things like that. If they want to try and just play that grind through the middle and play it safe, then they have to be dominating them. And Melbourne bring a lot of kick pressure, as they did the other week. So this is what they need to up the tempo. Penrith are going to be in this. I think Melbourne are going to be too strong for them, but Penrith won't go under it. They're not going to get tailed up by any stretch.
No.
They're paying $3 something. If you're a Penrith supporter, you'd be having a piece of that. Has the confidence gone out of them? They've only scored one try in the past two games. Can they score more than that against Melbourne? Well, we'll see on Saturday afternoon. But Melbourne, for mine, I expect them to win by a couple of tries at least in a grind, and they'll grind this out and they'll force errors. If he's unavailable, that's a massive loss again, just because those set starts makes it easier for the forwards to get on top, and it makes it easier for Cleary and Luai to kick. They need Momorowski to be very good. He had a good game last week. They need Dylan Edwards to be great. And they're going to be throwing a lot of heat up to him. And there's going to be a lot of kick pressure. There's going to be a lot of kick pressure, and there's going to be a lot of contested bombs. So I think Melbourne for mine.
Yeah, Melbourne are obviously the favourites, and a big part of me thinks they will win. However, it comes to that point in the season, and if I'm purely going with my head, you got to go the favourites in Melbourne. I just, maybe it's because I live out here in the suburbs or whatever, and I've seen how Penrith have played this year, and I sort of do want to have that bit of a story. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for Penrith to win. As he said, they're not going to get tailed up, but a lot of things have to go their way for them to win. And honestly, this might be a bit bold, but I think I might actually tip Penrith for the upset. I think they can do it genuinely, but this is also a bit of a, I might seem very smart if I'm correct, but I'm not too confident on this pick, but I will tip Penrith to just win. Nathan Cleary is going to have a blinder. I think that is the one constant for this game. Cleary will have to have a blinder from minute 1 to minute 80. Luai's going to have to be coming off the back of that. I think a big thing as well, now that Josh Morris is retired, at least from what I've seen, Momorowski can be one of, if not the best edge defenders, and I'm talking about winger/centre in the competition. And if anyone can sort of stop that freight train man for man against Olam, I think Momirovski can do it. Penrith will have to stay in the grind. Penrith actually, I think, will have to sort of go at Melbourne early and maybe try to surprise them a bit. If Penrith can get the first 4 to 6 points on the board, I think they'll be doing really good as well. They don't need to be piling on the points against Melbourne early, but if they can get that try, get that bit of confidence, I think it's a possibility. As I said, if I'm purely thinking with the head, I'll probably go with Melbourne, but I'm adding a couple other factors here, as well as thinking about how Penrith can win this one, and I'm going to go for it. I'll say Nathan Cleary slots one over at the end to win it for Penrith by a point. I feel like at least they'll, and I know it's a bit of an intangible, but they'll feel like they need this more than Melbourne. Both teams will obviously need it, and they'll be right into it. But Penrith, after coming up short last year, they want to, I guess, repeat the feat of the 91 team that they've been compared to so much. They have had, over the past 2 seasons, one of the best teams in NRL era history. And for that team to not win a premiership would be insane. Melbourne have got that premiership. So I'm bringing that all into my thought process. It's all going to have to go very well for Penrith. But I'm going to say it here, Penrith by 1. Nathan Cleary kicks the field goal at the end. Melbourne probably up by 6 to 12 with a few minutes to go. A couple of late surges from the Panthers to score, and then the field goal. That's what I'm saying. Righty, how crazy am I?
How
likely
there
is
is always
this?
the chance of an upset. There's going to be an upset in one of these. A 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
They have plenty of strike. They're just going to have to play. They can't play like they did against Para to beat Melbourne. They've got to be more expansive, like they like to play. Crichton's got to touch the ball more. He's an outstanding talent. I know he floats between centre and wing. His kick returns are good. They need him touching the ball. And if Toto plays, that lifts their spirits. That'll lift their chances a lot more. But it's going to be exciting, isn't it?
Oh, it's going to be a cracker. And as you said, Penrith won't die trying. And I think that's going to be the exciting thing. I think there will genuinely be points at this game where we go, Penrith can actually, obviously I'm tipping him, but where the doubters possibly go, Penrith can actually win this thing. Because there are those out there who think Penrith are absolutely no chance.
Big chance to score off a Cleary kick at some point.
Yeah.
Like, similar to the one he laid on for Capewell last week. Yeah. So that's what I said. Yeah, it'll be, and it's going to be a strong contest. It's just, this is the definite definition of you've got to take your chances early. Yeah. And Melbourne have got to be at their best. And they've got to, now Pappenhausen's hitting form. He's an everywhere man, bouncing around. Like, he'll pop up everywhere. I was once told by a former Kangaroo and Queensland fullback, Robbie Davis, in his opinion, the best 3 fullbacks in the comp are Turbo. Well, that's my daughter. You can come on and say hi. Say hi to everyone, Zara.
Hello.
Zara, who's your tip? Friday night, Manly or South?
Probably Manly.
And what about Storm versus Panthers?
Obviously Storm.
Yeah, you're a Storm supporter. So
see you guys later.
Robbie O said, in his opinion, this was at the end. This was before Origin 3 last year.
Yeah.
When we were having a beer with him, he was up here doing a speaking thing, and a mate of mine teed me up to come out for a beer with him. He said, in his opinion, the 3 best fullbacks in the comp were Turbo. He said, in any order, Turbo, Pappenhausen, and Tedesco, because they don't just sit out the back waiting for the block shape. A lot of fullbacks do that. Now, the game's evolved even more. Fullback originally evolved into a ball player at the back, but Lockyer was probably the first one of those with his skills. And now you've got to pop up everywhere. You can't just be pigeonholed. And those 3, that's what they do. So they've got to get – Pappenhausen's going to be a danger. The way he played himself back into form those last 2 games, the one against the Titans, against the Sharks. Was it who they played last? The Sharks. Yeah. That last one, the Sharks, and then Manly. So he's back. He'll be a danger. Him against the tired forwards, if they start getting on a roll late in halves, is always a danger man. He looks like he's got that back. In saying that, they need Edwards. Edwards reminds me of Lachlan Coote when Coote was playing at the Cowboys.
Yeah.
with his subtle ball playing. He's a better player than you give him credit for. He's not one of the superstars of the team, but he's a good, very good player. He did have. I reckon it was very windy up there in Mackay last week, and he struggled a bit with those kicks. But they'll test him out. But here's another one. Whoever's kicking game better, be it whatever set of halves kicks better, we'll get the chocolates, because both dummy halves can kick, like Grant and Carousel both can kick the ball when they need to. Neither of the fullbacks don't kick in general play much. Probably could, but it's going in that. It's in the arm wrestle and going those set to sets and doing the boring stuff and building pressure and waiting for someone to crack or getting a call go your way in this sort of football. And after, like last week, when Luai held Mitchell Moses off the ball, now they've seen that, don't be surprised if there's a few more penalties. They're eagle-eyeing at the bunker and the officialdom. So, yeah, no, but this should be sensational. Just one last thing before I go, mate. For all you Sydney folks wanting to watch a bit more football on a Saturday and a Sunday, the Queensland Cup, now called the Intrust Super Cup, there's a couple of games on Sunday. There's Burleigh plays South Logan. That's a 3 o'clock kickoff. That's on KO and Channel 9, I think. And the other game is Redcliffe versus Tweed Heads. Both of them are down the Gold Coast. Plenty of NRL talent in both these squads. Tanner Boyd from the Titans is playing. Jonas Pearson, he's also playing for Burleigh. Redcliffe have got Jaden Nikarima playing. They've got a few of the Warriors boys. Jaden Nikarima, everybody probably know, he's signed to go to Melbourne next year, playing good footy, looks happy, looks intent. The kid's, I know his uncle, and the kid's really turned his life around since his troubles down there at the Roosters. So full credit to him. He's got a family, and he'll make a good fist to that. This at Melbourne, even if he doesn't play any NRL, he'll be, it'll make him a better football player and a better person being there. South Logan, Jermaine Asako, Corey Pakes, a few of the Broncos boys playing there. A couple of cracking games. So tune into one of those on Sunday on Channel 9. Get on KO or Fox, and that'll look after you. So that'll fix your Sunday fix for another week. And next week, the 2 Queensland Cup prelim finals.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, are the curtain raisers to the NRL grand final. That should be sensational.
Yeah, I was just going to ask your thoughts on that before we finished up. So, yeah, the announcement that the 2 Intrust Super Cup games will be the curtain raisers for the grand final. Obviously, it's usually the state championship and the NRL women's. So, mutually beneficial, I'll say. What impact can this have for Queensland Rugby League and for the Intrust Super Cup? Because I take it there'll be a decent-sized crowd there for both of the preliminary finals.
There'll be a lot of guys on show, these younger blokes coming through, or just example of Jaden Nikarima. Paul Bunn, the recruitment guy from the Storm, was watching a game. He didn't even know Nikarima was playing. He was watching Sunny Coast or East, one of their feeders, play against Redcliffe. And he noticed he saw him, he was playing, he goes, I didn't know he was still playing, I thought he was suspended. And then he saw how well he went. Then they started talking up the opportunity for him to play. And they met with him, and Frank Panisi and Craig Bellamy, and they saw how committed the kid was, how he changed his life. They decided to give him an opportunity. So things like that, these competitions like the New South Wales Cup, or they call the Knock-On Effect Cup, and the Intrust Super Cup, they're genuine pathways to the NRL. So someone on show, you look at, is it Bronze and Garlic? Sean Garlic's son.
Yeah,
he's
just
also
signed with Melbourne.
And he's been playing at Newtown last few years. So if you're in the shop window and playing for these big games, and you're training and playing with NRL players, so you're, so they can see what you do with these boys that are in a proper NRL system. So this is the thing, it's a genuine pathway, and it's a genuine second tier. It's the equivalent of reserve grade. and it should be great. And if you'll get to play on that day of the grand final, there's going to be copious amounts of people watching on the tube or at the game. So it's going to be. You never know who's watching, and you never know what doors it could open.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Righty. Following, of course, we'll do a grand final preview next week for the NRL, but we're going to have nothing to talk about the following week. So I take it we might as well do a
Super Cup grand final.
We'll do a preview for that.
Preview for that, yeah.
Yeah, where's that being played this year?
Redcliffe.
Okay.
Redcliffe, so it should be a cracker in itself, whoever's there. North will be hard to beat. They're coached by Rowan Smith. Brian Smith's son, Rowan Smith, worked at the Roosters, worked at the Warriors. He's a very smart man. He was. I went to a coaching course where he spoke, and very intelligent man, Rowan Smith. He took North to the finals a couple of years ago, and then now he's got them to one game for the grand final. So we'll see.
Yeah, we definitely will see. Well, Righty, once again, thank you for joining me this week. And as I said, we'll be back again next week to do it for the big one, the 2021 NRL Grand Final.
Looking forward to it, mate. Thanks for having me on again. Everybody there, I'll put up a preview of this Uruguay Gauchos versus the Japan side on Rugby League, in my opinion, Facebook in a sec. So you get you'll get an idea of who we're playing and what we look like. Thanks for everything. Thanks for letting me give my opinion, and I'll talk to you next week, mate.
See ya.